Hey everyone, we are back again. Today is Monday, and we are ready for another edition of the College Football Focus podcast. We, of course, come to you 3 times a week: Monday, Wednesday, and Friday of each week, covering various topics on college football, as well as once the season gets going, we will do some game previews and predictions and things of that nature. So today we are going to look into a subject that's a little bit different, that I've not seen a lot of coverage of, but I think one that is very important. Worst case scenarios for the top 10 teams in college football. A lot of people have been giving their predictions this year. You kind of see the floor ceiling sort of things. And this is, I guess, along those lines where you would maybe say, if everything goes wrong, what could be their record? Well, we're going to go by my top 10. And that is actually over on my Twitter page at CFFMWaxman. And I'm also going to post it here on a later podcast to kind of show how that goes as far as compared to some others. But we're going to go with my top 10, and each team has something that could potentially go wrong that might derail their season. So without any further ado, let's get started. The team number 1 in my rankings is the Clemson Tigers. And they last season had some problems uncharacteristic with their defense. And if that defense doesn't get back to their standards, there could be some problems because the Tigers face high-powered offenses in Georgia Tech, SMU, Louisville, and South Carolina. The problem last year was that the Tigers were far too easy to run on, allowing nearly 5 yards per carry, and their 5.5 yards per play allowed was only the second time in the last 15 years, 2020 being the other, that they've allowed over 5 yards per play. Now, you would expect that with TJ Parker and Peter Woods up front and Sammy Brown at linebacker, not to mention new defensive coordinator Tom Allen, that this group should be more stout against the opposing rushing attacks and in general on defense. However, if the problem persists, then Clemson's national title dreams could disappear. Number 2 on my top 10 are the Penn State Nittany Lions. They are having big aspirations this season in the Big Ten, certainly challenging Ohio State not only for the Big Ten title, but for a long run in the college football playoff. But if their newly minted receiving core of Kyron Hudson, Devontae Ross, and Trevor Pena does not live up to expectation, then the Lions offense could become pretty one-dimensional. Now, we know what they have already in the backfield duo of Nick Singleton and Katron Allen, but the receivers have been pretty average since 2021. If you remember, that's when Jahan Dotson and Parker Washington were a pretty good combo. They combined for 155 catches, and the passing offense was 4th in the league in yards per game. So they did have an ability to kind of throw the ball out to some weapons on the outside and make some plays. Penn State has the quarterback in Drew Aller, and he should progress with better weapons. If that facet of the offense proves formidable, then the Nittany Lions will be right there. However, if they struggle to gain separation, which was a big problem last season for the Nittany Lions receivers, as well as consistently catching the football, then they can say goodbye to their championship dreams. Number 3 in my rankings are the Georgia Bulldogs, and uncharacteristically, they have some issues. Well, not so much issues as far as concerns on their offensive line. It's retooled, 4 new guys up there, and that kind of gives some pause, especially coming off of a 2024 where the Bulldogs offense stagnated behind what was a veteran trench crew. There are 4 new starters, and they will need to show cohesion and toughness from the get-go because Georgia averaged barely over 4 yards per carry last season and just 6 yards per attempt through the air. Very un-Bulldog-like. They have been, the past few seasons, been able to kind of move the chains through on the ground and make some big plays. They didn't really have a lot of that on offense last season. The defense should be nails, but if the offense cannot do enough to take some pressure off of Gunnar Stockton, then the Bulldogs could be in for some tough sledding. And a lot of that, again, the onus is going to fall on the guys up front. Speaking of up front, number 4 is Ohio State, and they also have I guess some concerns on the offensive line. Theirs are not so much with the starters, but with the depth. There's not much depth in the trenches, really, on either side, offensive line or defensive line. So Ohio State cannot afford any injuries. Starters on the offensive line are very good. They got a lot of playing time last year as the unit got retooled, but there's not a whole lot of experience in the backups. Story's largely the same on defense, especially along the interior. A lot of this is because of recruiting misses over the last 3 cycles. That's really played a role in lower numbers and a lesser talent component. So those are the 2 areas that if Ohio State does not reach its goals, those are going to be the ones that gain the most scrutiny. So health is a difficult thing to control. And over the course of a long season, players and especially the guys up front get banged up. For Ohio State, there cannot be any of that long term, because if they are forced to play inexperienced players for any really long amount of time, then their aspirations could sink like a stone. A third straight team that maybe has some questions and concerns along the offensive line are the Texas Longhorns. Sounds a little like a broken record, but they are another team that can ill afford to have someone up front go out for a prolonged amount of time. There's already been one camp injury at offensive tackle Andre Cageot. He was going to be in the rotation as either a backup or maybe starting at right tackle. He was battling Brandon Baker. This kind of puts Baker more heavily into the mix, and it means that a true freshman is now the backup. So the numbers have already dwindled a little bit for the Longhorns. With DJ Campbell being the only returnee from a year ago, Texas needs to have its trench crew stay healthy. If anyone else goes out, then fans could see Arch Manning running for his life and the rushing attack ground to a halt. So 3 teams in a row that maybe have some concerns along their offensive line. My 6th rated team is Notre Dame, and their issues stem squarely on the shoulders of CJ Carr. There's been a lot of buzz around him for this season. Obviously, Riley Leonard was the guy last year. But this is mostly Carr's team, and the indications are that he has the edge for the starting job over veteran Kenny Minchey. But what if Carr does not live up to his 5-star billing? Minchey's thrown exactly 3 passes in 2 seasons, and while the potential's there, the coaches really seem to have big plans for Carr. If it is him under center for the opener, he's going to need to be a quick study because the Irish face Miami and Texas A&M right out of the gate. Leonard may have been feared more for his legs than his arms, but he was a solid all-around player and was especially able to throw the deep ball. We saw that in the college football playoff championship game against Ohio State, where he hit a couple of deep passes for touchdowns. Defenses had to account for him in the run game. Carr is less of a run threat, so if he shows nerves or inconsistency throwing the ball, then the offense could have some problems, as it would make defenses have a much easier time keying on standout runner Jeremiah Love. So CJ Carr's progress is definitely something that needs to be watched. My number 7 team, Texas Tech Red Raiders, and this one falls squarely on Joey McGuire. Head coach has gone all in with the transfer portal this season, and the Red Raiders have one of the best rosters in the Big 12. Here's a question, though. What if all that talent doesn't play together? There are transfer starters at running back, along the offensive line, defensive line, and the secondary. That seems like an awful lot to ask for all of them to play at a high level from the outset. They do get Utah in week 4 in a roadie, and that could be tricky. But the fact that most of the tougher games on the schedule are on the back end, that could help because it will allow these guys to acclimate and get more reps under their belt, more snaps. And you would think by that time that they're playing together. Still, they've never won more than 8 games in McGuire's 3 seasons, and they've yet to show that they can vanquish teams with equal talent on a consistent basis. Chemistry is real, and if Tech does not have it, then 2025 could turn out to be a huge, huge disappointment. Team number 8 in my top 10 that has a concern are the Alabama Crimson Tide, and theirs is another one who is a quarterback in the crosshairs. Jalen Milroe is gone, which means Ty Simpson appears to have the quarterback job. Now, he entered the program as a five-star talent, but what if he's another one that struggles? Then Alabama would be forced to turn to Keelan Russell, who's a true freshman, also a five-star, but someone with no experience. Simpson's thrown 50 passes, mostly in mop-up duty, and while he does fit the profile of recent Alabama quarterbacks, it could take a little bit of time for him to become comfortable under center. He is going to be called upon at some point this season to threaten defenses with his arm. How's he going to respond to that? The other pieces on offense are in place, including a very good offensive line. So the question boils down to how well Simpson responds under the glare of the bright lights. Team number 9 in my top 10 are the Oregon Ducks. It was tempting to maybe have Dante Moore here. He's the quarterback who is stepping into the starting role this season. And if he's not all he's hyped up to be, then the offense could sputter. From this corner, he does look like a mega talent, but he was never consistent as a passer at UCLA. And he is going to be tasked with a faster paced, more complex offense in Eugene. Now, he's probably going to be okay, which means that the focus is going to shift to the secondary. There's so much inexperience in the back end that you wonder what's going to happen when the Ducks face high-end passing attacks. They're going to face a few: Indiana, USC, Washington, and potentially Penn State. Secondary is made up of transfers, including safety Dylan Thieneman from Purdue. He is probably the one guy that there's really not a question about, but the rest of them are first or second year players. So the potential for some growing pains are there. Inexperience dots the entire roster, and I think that that's going to keep Oregon from reaching super high heights this year, but it also makes for the potential to struggle if these guys are overwhelmed by the magnitude of the moment. And last but not least, number 10 in my rankings are the LSU Tigers. This one is on head coach Brian Kelly. He seems to be all in on his roster in 2025, so getting off to a quick start is paramount. The problem is 3 of the first 5 opponents are Clemson, Florida, and Ole Miss. Certainly no cakewalk. LSU has not won a season opener since 2019, which coincidentally was the last time that it had fewer than 3 losses. That, of course, was a national championship team. Garrett Nussmeier is a big talent at quarterback. There are weapons around him, although some of them are largely untested. The offensive line is a question as well after losing 4 starters, and if that group struggles early, then the overall slow start concerns get magnified. The schedule is grueling, so winning early would give the Tigers a little bit of capital heading into November that sees Alabama and Oklahoma on the schedule. So those are some concerns for the top 10 teams heading into 2025. Everyone has them, and most of the time they're probably going to be okay. But if those issues that I talked about with each team really rear their ugly heads, then the championship dreams that they have certainly could waste away, and you wonder just how far they may drop. What do you think about my top 10 and some of the concerns? Do you agree or disagree with the biggest concerns for each of these top 10 teams? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoy this video, hit the like and subscribe button. And that way you'll get notifications when we have new content. Again, we are out on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and we will have new content on those days. And once the season gets underway, we will have game previews as well. On Saturday mornings, we're going to have a Saturday 6-pack where I give you 6 games and do predictions, rundowns of those games. And it will be like printing money, because these are predictions that are definitely going to hit and make you richer. So that is going to do it for us for the College Football Focus podcast. We will see you again on Wednesday. So until then, folks, take it easy.